They don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful co-host.
Me. Hey,
Melissa.
How are you?
I'm doing good, Melissa. How are you?
Good. I'm great. Thanks.
Good. Hey, I'm pretty excited. I think it's been quite a while since we had an actual wholesaler on the podcast, and I always enjoy talking to people who are doing what we're doing better than multifamily investors and that kind of syndications.
All of that.
Yeah. Because I think we can really deep dive into tactics and strategies and provide you guys with some tactical steps moving forward. So I'm super happy to introduce Steve Keighery he's the CEO of Homebuyer Louisiana out of New Orleans in the greater New Orleans area. Originally from Australia, and he's going to drop a whole bunch of knowledge for you guys today. So I'm really excited to get to know him and to bring him to you. Steve, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Tell us how you got here.
Yeah,
that's really what I want to hear.
I got here a little bit by accident, to be honest with you. So I had a business back in Australia, sort of like a tech company. We ran a two-sided marketplace similar to Home Advisor and Angie's List here. And I'd left that company. I sold some of my shares. My idea was to take a year off. That's a Robert Kiyosaki thing. I'm a big fan of him, and he wrote a book about taking a year off. So that's what I did. And we love America. We've been in 28 states. New Orleans is my favorite city. So we sort of said, hey, let's go spend 6 months there, just enjoy ourselves. And we enjoyed ourselves a little bit too much.
Easy to do in New Orleans.
The food is amazing. The people's amazing. The culture's amazing. And sort of 2 months in, my wife's like, we're not leaving, Steve. Figure that out. She told me. I'm like, okay. So, but I looked around because the goal was to not think about what I'm doing for a year. Like literally not thinking about the next move. Let it come to you. And so then we were loving it. And then I looked at the business side. I was into property a little bit. I bought some in Australia, but it wasn't my business. I had 6 rentals I'd built up. So I started to look up, but I wanted to do more property, and I started looking at the property market. It was just so much better here. Australia is really expensive, and we lived in a really expensive area. So we're from Sydney. They just did a study. It's the second least affordable city in the world based on income to price. Hong Kong's number 1. New York, San Francisco is even much lower than Sydney. So for me to swap some of my capital to this market and to invest my capital in this market, it just made a big difference to my lifestyle. So that's really what brought me here. And then, to get the visa, if you start a business, they'll give you a visa as a business investment visa. So I did that, and that business was Homebuyer Louisiana. And we went full on into, wholesaling initially, holding a lot more rentals now. And I do a bit of a balance between wholesaling and burring out rental properties.
Sure.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I want to take a year off.
I don't want Melissa to take a year off. No, that's great. So, let's talk about when did you arrive in New Orleans and start doing the wholesaling business? What year was that?
So it was 2018. So not super long ago, about 4 years ago. I had a bit of an advantage. I didn't know I wanted to do property at first, right? Because again, Robert Kiyosaki built businesses by properties, right? So that's sort of really the mode I operate in. So I bought a property off a wholesaler, and I didn't even know what a wholesaler was. So, I went, let me learn what these guys do, so they got the deals, right? So I did a course, some Vina Cox-Jones, a little bit of a course, some wholesaling just to learn the market. And I learned it was all sales and marketing. Yeah. And that happens to be my skill. So in my company, I ran the sales and marketing. I built sales teams. I built marketing teams. So when it just clicked, I'm like, man, this is what I do. So it was actually reasonably easy for me. I say easy. There's a lot to learn, a lot to
simple,
but I had the basic skills to be into it in a fast way. And so that was, yes, I started marketing and finding deals. And I used wholesaling at first to really educate me on the market, because New Orleans is a complicated market. It really changes block to block. It's probably a difficult market to operate in. But if you learn it, then it's really good. And I was able to, by wholesaling, I was able to meet lots of buyers, see what they were thinking, see how they invested. I really just sponged all their information, and they're all different. And I just take a piece of you. And then that gave me confidence to start buying rentals. I'd use the BRRRR strategy to buy, rehab, renovate, rent out and refinance. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
That's cool.
I am a little bit curious about the New Orleans market, because they were hit so bad by Katrina. I guess that was in 2005. In our market personally, we were hit with a pretty bad storm in 2018. But I'm wondering, has the deals that you were wholesaling, were they properties, or do you wholesale properties that were affected by the storm this many years later? Or has that kind of been done away with?
And then there was a storm last year.
Well, yeah, there was a storm last year. So there's the audit. So Katrina wise, there definitely still is Katrina properties, and there's some properties that are still vacant since Katrina, and I've wholesaled some of those. I bought some of those, so they exist. Most of them have been turned. It does help from obviously there's a whole bunch of insurance money that came from Katrina, and a whole bunch of rehab. So most of the property stock got updated in that 2006, 7, 8 period. So it does actually help me, because when I'm looking at a property, if I've learned, which most of them have, they flooded during Katrina. I know the electrical, plumbing was all updated at that point. So it actually sort of helps, because I know some markets, you have properties that haven't had plumbing updated for 60, 70 years, you know what I mean? So that helps. But there are still deals from Katrina. We are a hurricane prone area. We got hit with Ida pretty bad recently. Definitely doing a bunch of Ida properties at the moment. People who have damaged properties and just want to, take the insurance check and then sell the property as is, or unfortunately don't have insurance, sell it and try to move on to something new. Right. That's a lot of what we experience. Would you say that when you're there's all kinds of different distress, personal, financial, physical distress of the property in our market, because of the hurricane damage that it sustained across the Gulf Coast? We primarily have been focusing on physical distress. You're driving for dollars lists, and some of those other lists that we get, the code enforcement violation list, those kind of things are kind of where we target a lot of our marketing. Are you doing that, or you're targeting different motivations?
Definitely that's a chunk, very similar code violations, or all that's the same. I do inherited properties. I do quite a few inherited properties. They're harder to target, but I have a lot of content around that. I get referrals around that. So I do inherited properties a lot as well.
Sure, we do as well. What are you doing for marketing? Are you direct mail, cold call, SMS, or are you more, because of your background, are you more SEO or pay-per-click type marketing?
Yeah, I'm definitely more SEO, pay-per-click now. I did a bunch of text, did a bunch of direct mail. Text was actually how I started, and I found that really effective, but I just had noted the different laws coming into play, so it didn't feel as sustainable. And SEO, I know the back of my hands, SEM, I know. So I did start to lean on that, still with a bit of direct mail. And I think I would summarize what I do as a bit more branded. And I don't think a lot of wholesalers do that, in that branded to consumers, right? I have a brand. I'll if you go to my website, you'll see videos of me in properties, you'll see closings, you'll see content, and I'll do that so that I might not get as many leads as other people, but I close a much higher percentage of them, because people that I speak to, they generally want to do work with me. And I guess one advantage I have is I am a legit cash buyer too. I buy houses myself. I do pay cash. I do have capital from my old business. So it actually allows me to Because I think if you just wholesale but you can't close the deal yourself, if you brand too much, you're lying, right? Because you're a cash buyer, but I actually am, and I do. So it allows me to really punch out that point a lot harder than most people can.
Yeah, that's great.
We found that very true for us too.
Yeah, definitely. And really what I see is a lot of fly-by-night wholesalers. They'll come in and start to do that, but as soon as they start pulling out and backing out of these deals, and especially in a smaller community, but I'm sure even in New Orleans, once you start getting your negative reviews up there, people have to either change business names or move on, because you can't just lie to people where your intention is to only wholesale and not look at it for your own portfolio and then expect to continue business in a community.
Yeah, we definitely get that here. I think it's everywhere. And, I guess I respect the hustle in that, it's attractive to wholesale because it doesn't take a whole lot of capital. And I respect those people who are doing that. But I would just say to them, just make sure it's fine to do that, but just make sure you can close the deal. And if that just means you are really good in your numbers and you have a deep pool of cash buyers, that's fine, but have that, because if you start contracting deals you can't close, that's definitely going to hurt your reputation. It's not going to make a sustainable business. A month or two ago, I actually bought a property I didn't want, right? I'd assigned it, the buyer just had some issue getting the funds, and I'd already delayed the closing. It wasn't an option for me not to close on that day. So I bought it, right? And I ended up selling it. I took a few extra closing costs, but that was for the brand. That was, for me, that's an investment in the brand. It wasn't about the property. I could have got out of it, but no, my brand's important. I'll make that investment, and it helps me get the next deal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what does your team look like? Is it just you? Are you a one-man show, or you got acquisitions guys, dispo guys? What does your team look like? How are you operating?
We're pretty lean. I mean, I have a full-time acquisition person. She's local. She does a lot of my phone stuff. She's local to this market. She's a real key piece. But that's my really only full-time person. I mean, I have a big network. I have a property manager that looks after my properties. I have finance guys. I have lots of people I partner with. So I feel like I have a team, do a little bit of VA stuff, but fundamentally I got one full-time employee is my only real team.
Sure. Well, can you take me through what that process, what your process looks like? They come in through one of your marketing channels, and then are they going direct to your acquisitions person? Are you filtering them with a VA? Are you taking those calls? What does that look like?
So going direct to my acquisitions person. So she's in charge of most of the customer facing stuff, right? So she'll do an intake questionnaire. She'll do an interview. There's a whole bunch of questions she asks to find out the condition of the property, the situation. She's fantastic on the phone. She's not a salesperson. She's a listener, a carer, and that's all we really need. We just need to know the situation and how we can solve it. She will find out what they want to get for it. She's really good at going not just what they want, but what they actually need for the property. She'll ask them a few times about what's the absolute lowest she'll take for all cash. And she'll ask them again. And look, if my boss has a number that's lower than that, do you still want to hear it? So she's trying to figure out where they're at in that respect. So she'll get that number. She'll pull the comps for me too. And then I will look at that. So then I will figure out what I think the maximum allowable offer is. And so we see what they need, what the offer is. She will then go back to them. And this will happen within 24 hours, often the same day or by the next day. So she's going to go back with what we call a soft offer. So she's going to say, we're about here. Because for me, if we're not in the same ballpark, I don't want to go check out the house, right? So she's saving my time in that way. If they're not, she'll follow them up. And so they go into her pipeline, and she's constantly checking in, seeing how they're doing. If the numbers are close, she'll get the inspection. So that's where I come in. I will do the inspection, take photos, check it out. I'll meet with the customer, but still, when I go away, she will actually be the person to call and give them the firm offer. So she does do that offer as well, which might be different to I think what most people do, but she will make the firm offer. If they agree, we'll send out a contract, and get going. If they don't agree, she'll follow up again. So she's really maintaining that whole relationship with the sellers And I'm really just like checking it out, making decisions, and working with her like that.
Sure. Yeah. And she's always closing over the phone. She's never presenting the contract face to face.
We just do it digitally. I know everyone's different on that. In this market, it tends to work. So lots of people will try to like wrap up the contract on the spot, and I guess you don't need it in this market. I find, I know some real competitive markets, you've got to get that signature. I find it best not to. It allows me to run numbers thoroughly. I think the sellers get that too, because it's like, I'll look at it and say, great, let me go back to the office. I'll crunch my numbers and I'll give you an offer. And so I think they appreciate that. It's not high pressure. And when I give them a number, they understand that it's like, it's a determined number. I'm not just trying to get some signed contract. So personally for me, that really works. So she's just doing it over the phone, sending the digital contracts. They mainly sign that. I'll turn up and get a signature if needed. It's very rare that I need to.
Right.
So as a follow-up to that, because a lot of people who are starting to scale their business, their big question is how to pay their acquisitions people. And so what do you feel best works best? So
I asked a lot of questions, different networks when I was trying that out as well. So lots of people just do commission, and that makes a lot of sense. For me personally though, I wanted to pay a base as well. And the main reason for that was that I don't want to stress about my employee if they're eating. You know what I mean? If they're not getting paid 1 month, the closings don't come in, that would stress me out. So I do pay a small base, and then I'll get 10% of any assignment fee. If I keep it, I'll pay $1,000 commission, so a bit of a hybrid between commission and a small base.
Yeah. We think that's the best too.
Yeah, for sure.
We have definitely operated it like that. I think that it's good too, because when you're having her do those other tasks for you, the follow-up, managing all that kind of stuff, if you get somebody who's solely commission based, sometimes you have trouble getting them to actually care about doing that follow-up stuff. But if she's getting the base salary for that, you can rely on her a little bit more, and I also don't feel bad when I call them up and say, hey, I need you to take the phone this weekend, or any of that kind of stuff.
I think that's a really good point. And I think just the person you attract, a pure salesperson is going to be okay on commission, but they're also going to be like give me the money, and that can come off wrong. And there is a bit of a culture like that in wholesaling, and for some people it works. We definitely don't have that culture. We care, we like to make money, and we want to make money, but we fundamentally care first. We're going to help the seller first. And if we can make some money while we help them, great. But, so for me, paying that base, I think helps put me in that zone of having someone just not a commission hungry salesperson working.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great model to follow. So, okay. So after you get the property under contract, do you guys have a TC? Are you doing all the transaction coordination stuff yourself? Or you just give it to the title company and they handle all problems? What does that look like?
A bit of title company, I'll lean on them heavily, but I will do a bit of the transaction coordinating, but title company really does most of that for me, and I have a good relationship with them. I do disposition, so if I'm not going to keep it and a wholesaler, I'll do disposition and deal with the sellers. I do want to, that's my goal this year, I do want to outsource that. So I do feel I can get someone doing disposition, and they might even do the inspections and save me from doing it. But right now, I'm to be honest, I'm like happy doing it myself. I'm enjoying it, but I think I will end up outsourcing that. But I am doing basically all acquisitions, and I'm doing transaction coordinating, leaning on my title company.
Sure. So what's your disposition process getting? You get a property in, it doesn't fit your buy box, and you're looking it to move. Do you have this giant buyers list? You send out one email and get it under contract for $50,000 higher than you wanted? Or are you working on a small buyers list with relationship-based buyers that you can move it to them? What does that look like for you?
Probably the middle of that. So I do only email, so I don't do any like Facebook or anything like that. I keep it strictly off market, and I have a decent sized buyers list, so I sort of will blast it out. But there's definitely a tier of buyers who buy a lot of deals from me. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes I might not send it if there's certain, obviously circumstances change. Sometimes it's easier to show, sometimes it's not. If it's not easy to show, I might just shop it to my one buyer and move it without ever sending it. I do a decent amount of that. But in general, I'll send it out. I'm not making 50K in general, but in this market, you just don't really have those margins. But I would generally sign it fast. I could probably get more, and there is a balance. And I don't think I necessarily do this right, by the way. But I don't auction up the prices a lot. I think I do leave money on the table.
Yeah.
And but I do value selling to the easy buyers with no hassle. I want them to get a good deal and they come back to me again and again. So I think I probably leave money on the table. I'll move it fast. They generally go within 24, 48 hours. Like my deals are gone. And I could take longer. I could show it more, auction it up. And I don't do that, but I get paid. I'm happy and I move on to the next one.
Yeah, we're very similar to that too.
There's definitely a balance versus time on market and ease of transaction versus not. If we tried to get the absolute most dollars we could, I'm sure we'd have a lot more deals fall out of contract. And you have to reach out there to somebody. This happens to us all the time. If we get contacted by a buyer that we don't know, we've never done any deals with, we barely had a conversation with, and he's offering $10,000 more, we might consider it. We might talk to our other buyers, but if they can't, if I would rather take $10,000 less for a property and know that it's going to close than hope for, they say a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. That's kind of the way we look at it too.
100%. I mean, that's definitely my and again, there's no right or wrong. I know, like you could look at it and say leave money table. I do think though it will help, people like us, it will help if the market changes, which it may well do soon. So, I think, when you have those relationships with solid buyers, like that's probably going to translate, when the market's hot, there's lots of these people overpaying, these not as, qualified buyers who are paying you those high amounts. They're probably the ones that'll disappear if the market turns, and the people you're dealing with are probably the guys and girls that are still going to be there.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so now you get that property gone, you get your money back in. How much of that deal, or do you track your KPIs? How much of that money are you putting back into marketing versus other expenses?
Good question. I actually do the profit first. So when I get it, I allocate a portion to tax, a small portion of profit. I'll put it back. Put back a large amount into operation expenses, which my marketing will flow from that. I forget the exact percentages. I have a spreadsheet, but I do profit. So I don't necessarily allocate marketing specifically, but it goes into an operating budget, which is funding the marketing.
Yeah, that's awesome. We like the profit first.
I just did it this morning for the last month.
It's a really good system. If anyone I recommend looking it up. Find your own balance of what that looks like. But I do have rentals as well, so I do the same thing with my rentals income. I'll allocate it out to. I'll keep capex. I'll keep debt service. So I'm keeping these reserves in place and making sure that I can weather some storms.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Now, this might be a little bit off topic. We had the author of Profit First for Real Estate Investors on our podcast before. And that's definitely a slightly different take than the actual profit first. But I'm wondering, are you setting up your 5 different accounts for each property, or or how are you doing that for your buy and hold stuff?
Yeah, good question. So I have 2 entities. So I split. So I don't have an LLC or a bank account for every property, right? But so I've actually got 2. I've got 2 at the moment. I'm probably going to start a 3rd, and I have a bunch of properties in each one. So for each collection of properties, they have the 5 operator, 5 different accounts, but it's so sort of like that for me, that's a business, but there's like 10, 12 properties in each of them. And, Yeah,
if you had 10 or 12 properties and each one has 5 bank accounts and and then you have another 10 or 12 properties, each one have 5 bank accounts, you'd spend all your day dealing with bank accounts. So you couldn't do it.
I must admit that's actually the reason, because I'm sort of ready to go a third. And the only thing that's stopping me, because there's like obviously asset protection, all that sort of stuff. And I'm probably ready. And then I'm like, I can't bother doing it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to set up the bank accounts.
We have those same.
I say that every day.
Like, why don't we just set up the other 5 accounts? Well, Melissa says, "Are you going to manage them?" I'm like, "No, that's not my job."
For sure.
No. Okay, that's great. Well, where, if our listeners want to find out more about you, find more about your public facing business, or just get in contact with you, where do you think we can send them so they can?
Yeah, check out my website, homebuyerlouisiana.com. Check it out. You'll see a lot of videos of properties I'm buying. You'll also see how you'll notice it's a very consumer facing website, so you may find that interesting. We do a meetup here in New Orleans, on the West Bank of New Orleans. So we have a Facebook group for that. So if you're in New Orleans, I'd recommend checking out our West Bank Real Estate Investors. If you search that on Facebook, you'll see it. We record, there's some really cool videos actually. So you can check out our YouTube channel, West Bank Real Estate Investors, and you'll just see some local people talking about what they're doing.
Awesome. That's great. Well, really appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing your business with our listeners and with us. And we look forward to talking to you again.
For sure. I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.